What's up, crazy people, and welcome to the show. My guest today runs a record label called Needlejuice Records and is also a member of one of the internet's most famous bands, Nuclear Bubble Wrap. The conversation went a lot of different places, talked about the industry, and talked a lot about politics today. So if you don't like political talk, maybe skip this episode. But it was a really great chat, so check out my chat with Jace McLain. Oh yeah, P.S. I'm experimenting with the way that I record the video for these podcasts, so the audio and video are recorded separately, and this time I tried using the Skype video feed. So if it looks a little different than the last couple episodes, still experimenting, trying to find what works best. Okay, now it actually begins. All right, and we're live. So, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Surviving the quarantine and the coronavirus as everyone else is.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're running a record label during this time.
Yeah.
Like, how has that affected your sales? Like, has anything really shifted with that, or are things pretty much the same?
Well, so at first, what we kind of did was when this was first apparent, like we basically halted all activity and we kind of read the room. We were just kind of like, okay, like, are people going to keep buying records? And other labels kept chugging along and records kept coming out. So then we kind of picked things up again because we were just like, okay, it looks like people are still buying records. So it looks like, we aren't in danger of accidentally bankrupting ourselves. So we steadily got back in with we repressed a Lemon Demon record that we did last year, and that's pretty safe, doing another Lemon Demon thing. But we've been doing some other stuff, and for the most part, things seem relatively unchanged.
So, like, the market really hasn't shifted. Like, broke ass people who wanted to buy vinyls are still broke ass, but they're still buying vinyls.
Yeah, they are.
I admire that, that commitment where we're just like, I am broke and I can't afford food and the economy tanks, but shoot, I'm still going to buy the new record.
Yeah. Like, people that buy vinyl are just addicted to it.
So are the cassettes still selling well? Is that still like one of your big
Yeah,
movers?
yeah. I would say that for the most part, vinyl sells the best, and then cassettes, and then CDs.
That is still so like weird to me as like the actual like efficiency of the format. Just
Yeah.
like cassettes selling that well, just it still blows my mind, man. I still don't get it.
Yeah, it's it kind of started a few years ago, I think, is I think some of what it's kind of born out of is these independent bands that are out playing shows, and like and for the most part people aren't really buying CDs, but tapes are so unique and retro that when a band is selling a tape at their show, it's like they're selling a cool little collectible. Whereas, everybody sells CDs, but if you're selling a tape, you're selling like it's more of like a little it's
Gimmicky.
like a yeah, it's a little more gimmicky, which makes people a little more prone to wanting to buy it, especially if they're into collecting, because there's definitely like a collector market for cassettes.
Yeah, I mean, I have my cassette collection, but it's I don't know. For me, it's because the album artwork is so much smaller. Like
Yeah.
but also I'm not trying to take away from your business. Say, man, cassettes suck. Don't buy them. So please buy cassettes from Needlejuice Records. So
Yeah.
how many years have
Well,
you guys been
well,
going at this point?
um, almost 3 years. It'll be officially 3 years. I think November 14th will be the official, like. Now, Needlejuice as an entity has actually existed for longer. I would say we're probably around the 3 year mark now, as far as like the idea of Needlejuice brewing and actually talking about doing it. But officially, November 14th is, I think, the 3 year anniversary.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying right before that?
Sorry, what's that?
Oh, I said I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying right before that? You had like a thought before I
Oh,
interrupted asking how long Needlejuice had been going.
oh, was it about cassettes? I guess. Oh, I think I was just gonna say that cassettes. The artwork is smaller, but you can do cool things with the actual design of the cassette itself.
Or yeah, the
Which,
actual physical cassette. Yeah, because
yeah,
you
the
get some
actual
creativity with
cassette.
that.
Yeah. There's like there's a label that I've been following for a little bit that did a vaporwave album that was based on like samples from VHS tapes, and they actually made the cassette like look like a VHS tape, which was a pretty cool little gimmick.
Nice. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, and your guys' cassettes like look really cool in terms of the artwork and stuff. Like that's like it's if you're gonna buy cassettes, I guess like as far as make them like cool collectibles, like they look like collectibles. They don't look like standard cassettes, which is very cool. The artwork is great.
Yeah, and that's kind of the direction that we're going. We are very much a label that promotes aesthetically pleasing products. And like the look of it is like just as important as the music that's actually on it.
So in terms of like the business operations, like I don't know who does what at the label. Like what do you do versus like what does Austin do? Like what's the division of responsibilities?
Yeah, so that's some interesting stuff that we're still in the process of really figuring that out, but like officially, um, but basically Austin handles a lot of like talking to artists, doing artwork, and just like little like messing around in Photoshop and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Um, I do all the shipping. So whenever orders come in, I'm the one shipping them, and Brandon is the other guy in Needlejuice, and he's basically the money guy, and he does the accounting. He also helps, and we all do a little bit of like social media
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but Brandon's really been doing a lot of social media stuff lately, and he also kind of serves as like a project manager. Like he's kind of the guy who like maintains a schedule of events and makes sure that we're getting things done on time.
So in terms of like who has like the final say? Is it a three-way partnership? Like who how do those dynamics work?
Yeah. It's kind of like yeah, it's a three-way kind of thing. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like we have this three-way group chat, and we kind of decide on things together. I wouldn't say there's any like hard and fast rules about like one person getting final say over anything. There like and you know, we haven't made an official documentation that lays out our responsibilities, which is something we do need to do. But the way that it's kind of working right now is that it's kind of like you know, if at least two out of three, you know, agrees, then we go in the direction of the majority.
Do you guys have a lot of disagreements, or is it you guys seem to be pretty amicable, just like general same direction, not really that many issues, or are there big behind the scenes fights that
And
we don't know about?
um, well, the three of us do have different music tastes, and I would say that early on, like the three of us having radically different music tastes could kind of be a thing where one person maybe wasn't so excited about a release or you know, something like that. But you know, it's kind of, you know, I think at this point we now kind of appreciate that Needlejuice is an amalgamation of our music tastes,
And
and it's
as long as the record sells, so it's like, oh man, I'm not excited to put this out, but I am excited to get the money back from it.
yeah. So like yeah. There's certain things like I know like Austin's not a big fan of like you know music without lyrics, and we've been doing some of that kind of stuff lately. We've been doing some ambient music and
Hmm.
things like that. Um, but I think he's pleased when they sell though.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how's the least wanted music been selling?
It is the least wanted record.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
yeah.
the least wanted music.
Yeah, a funny kind of meme that we did on April Fool's Day is we did the surprise Pikachu meme where it's like Needlejuice puts the most unwanted song on vinyl. Nobody wants it. Needlejuice surprise Pikachu.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's really funny. We pressed 500 copies of it, just thinking like, oh, this will sell on the meme value alone. So we'll press 500 of them, and it'll and and that'll be a good amount of them. And it's like, oh, well, they're not really moving, and like we all kind of feel like the most unwanted song, it makes the rounds. It goes viral once every like 3 to 4 years.
Right.
So we're just kind of waiting for the next time
It goes
it
viral.
goes viral. Yeah, yeah, and the next time it goes viral, we can like get in on top of it, and like the last time it went viral because of a Reddit post.
Ah.
So if that kind of thing happens again, if it goes viral again on Reddit, an easy thing to do would be to like message the person who started the thread and just be like, hey, can you put the link to the record in the post? I'll give you gold or whatever it is people on Reddit do. I don't know.
Right. So, do you get a lot of like independent bands asking to be on your label? Like now that you have a label, or do you get hit up by a bunch of...
Yeah, 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 yeah. We do. Probably not as many as you'd think, I guess. Like I kind of see the Twitter accounts of other labels that are just like constantly making these kind of like posts about how like jaded they are by getting demo submissions constantly, and like it can be kind of like a weird thing when like, especially if you're like really really busy and you have like 5 projects in the pipeline, and you're so busy putting together all this stuff that you can't even think about something else, and you got like 3 people knocking on your door going like, hey, I make music. My music is like Lemon Demon. You like Lemon Demon, right? And so it can be really hard to like even want to open that email, because it's just like, I'm so busy, I can't even like pay
Right.
attention to this right now. But yeah, we probably get like a few of those a month. And sometimes I've looked at it, and like the Chinese hackers record we put out was actually like, the guy messaged us and was like, hey, do you want to put this out? And then we checked it out. We were like, oh yeah, 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 this is good. Plus you also like actually have an audience, so that's good.
Right.
But yeah, I think a lot of artists don't really understand that you can't come to a label, without having like built up a following first, and just expect us to build your following for you, because it's just kind of like, we can't really do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a completely different, time and era where it used to be that, the bands would go to the label, say, this is the quality of our product. Can you help distribute this? Get us
Yeah.
management, get us on tour, so that way, fund us so that we can build that audience. Now, with the internet, the expectation is bands be social media savvy, have your huge audience, and then approach the label, and the label does the distribution, but you should already be big, which, I sort of have mixed feelings on, because
Hmm.
one thing that, and you and I both know that, like, there are a lot of musicians who are great musicians and put out great material, but they're not necessarily, like, tech savvy and social media savvy. And I think it's a
Yeah.
skill set that I think, like, it used to be just like you just had to perform well and write good songs and play your instrument well. But now this other skill set, which is sort of like completely divorced from the art of it, is, be good with social media, understand the algorithm. And to me, it's like it's a little bit of a bummer
Yeah,
from that
exactly.
perspective, because like you just wish that someone who was just good and had the talent could just get there through that, but you have to, make sure your stuff, shows up in the YouTube feed and gets on a Spotify playlist, and then only after you do all that, and pay
Yeah,
your DistroKid fees,
like
then maybe a label will pay attention to you. And like I know you understand this, from the perspective like because you and I are both artists, like we've been doing this for years. Like
yeah,
it's a little bit heartbreaking in a way, like the way it's changed and how much time you spend doing that versus the music making.
yeah. There's kind of two ways to look at it, and it's like you can look at it that way, but then you can also look at it in the way of like, it's never been a better time to be an artist because the internet makes it so easy to put your stuff out there. But
Yeah,
yeah, but at the same time, everyone else is trying to do it. So
right.
like, it still feels like the odds are stacked against you. Like there was this sweet period of time, but I would say between 2004 and like 2009 where like the music industry hadn't figured out how the internet works yet, and you had all of these unsigned musicians suddenly making like buttloads of money just by putting their stuff on the internet and simply being at the right place in the right time before the record labels and the music industry had even really discovered that the internet was the like at that period of time the music industry was still scared of the internet and they were running away from it.
Right.
But so there was this door open for certain artists to just sweep in and just function completely without a label and just like this was also before streaming services, so like all you had was like iTunes and music downloads, which I have to say made a lot more money than streaming services make. Back before streaming services were basically the only thing, and yeah, it was just this really, really sweet time. And I would say that in the early days of Nuclear Bubble Wrap, we kind of got in on that.
Oh, I'd say you definitely got in on that in at least a level that I would consider like really respectable, especially considering like how young you guys were.
Yeah,
I think you
yeah,
guys.
and I had no idea what we were doing. So
Yeah, I mean, like you were a kid and you were still like garnering internet fame, like going viral. Like, I mean, as far as bands where like I've been a member, even like part time, filling in gigs. I would say Nuclear Bubble Wrap is the most successful out of all those projects that I've had the pleasure of playing with.
yeah,
So
yeah, that and that could be, at least from the perspective that in the early days of the internet, I would say we were doing better than most. I mean, I was in high school at this time, but like how many bands that existed and were made of like other people going to my high school, how many of those bands are still together?
right, and you guys have
I would guess
notoriety.
0.
You guys have notoriety.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, it's very interesting where when you're comparing our two bands, we're like we were really big like on Nashville on a local level where we would draw
Yeah.
big crowds. But then like in terms of worldwide fame, you guys like absolutely crushed us, and so you wouldn't get the big crowds in Nashville. But if I, start talking about Nuclear Bubble Wrap, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know them." So it's sort of like it's very interesting and weird how that works sometimes, where you can have like this massive worldwide audience, and then like not have a local following, and then we can have like a big local following,
like,
and then like but
yeah,
worldwide, we'll get like 1,000 views, and you'll get like 100,000. It's an
yeah,
interesting
but then at the same
dichotomy.
time, it's like yeah, but at the same time, we can go play a show in Nashville and like 3 people show up. So
Right, and then we would do the show and 60 people would show up, but then we put out a music video, we get, 2,000 views, and then you guys, get another viral one. So it goes to show you, like, the absolute, like, insane complexity and just weirdness of, like, the current state of the
yeah,
industry where, like, back in the day, there used to be a much clearer path, but the internet just, like, blew everything wide open
yeah,
where just, there's
yeah.
so many different pathways now.
They're like kind of what I've learned throughout all this is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like
I don't know. There's
it's
some wrong ways.
literally just
There's some wrong fucking ways to do it.
well, yeah, I'm sure, but there's no one like magical path
Oh
that'll
yeah.
just get your music famous. It's just kind of it's kind of this combination of like having good music, being social media savvy, and um, and some of it is honestly just luck based and
Oh,
just
a
being
lot
in
of
the
it is
right
luck
place at the
based.
right
I
time.
feel like so
Yeah,
much of musical success is luck based because you and I both know amazing bands and like no one has ever heard of them and it's not through lack of talent and a lot of them hustle on the social medias. It's just like sometimes you just don't catch a lucky break. I mean, shoot, some of my favorite bands, like, didn't catch lucky breaks. Like freaking
mhm.
Thin Lizzy, they have all these amazing songs, but because they kept getting, like, sick or, like, someone broke their hand right before a tour, and so, like, oh, we have this great single, but we can't promote it because someone got hurt or someone got sick. And so just, like,
Yeah.
luck plays a huge factor in it, I think.
It does. Yeah. It certainly does. Um, and in like I would say with Nuclear Bubble Wrap, we were kind of going off of like the Lemon Demon model, where like the way that a lot of Lemon Demon songs got success is they had animated music videos
Hmm.
that back in those days were on Newgrounds.
I remember
Of course,
Newgrounds.
now they're all on YouTube.
Right.
Although Newgrounds still exists, but all those videos still end up on YouTube anyway, and that's where the majority of people see them.
I mean, people don't
Um,
realize like how huge Newgrounds was for our generation. Because if you
it
wanted to
was,
watch
yeah,
videos on the internet, that was the place before YouTube. And like everyone wanted to be a Flash animator, so they could make their own videos. And we all got Flash, and we all sucked at it. And like we all
but a
went.
few people were good enough
Well, yeah, a few. No, I'm saying a
to make
few,
videos
but
for
I'm
other
saying like
people.
you and I sucked at it. I assume because I haven't seen you do
Yeah,
Flash animation that you sucked at
I
it.
did download it. I did download it and play around with it,
Yeah,
and
we
then
all
I was
did.
like, oh, this is too much work.
Right, it's so much work, and just like I'm gonna play music
Yeah.
instead and get someone else to animate it. But like that was I do I wonder how much that explains about the millennial psyche, where you just had like all these weird videos about like Osama bin Laden getting killed by Sonic the Hedgehog with machine guns, and like
Hmm.
these really like kind of like vulgar, crass, and like when you actually look back at it in retrospect, not really that funny. Where it's like it was funny for a 12-year-old, but like when you look at it as an adult, like oh, this most of this isn't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
and I could go on and on about Nuclear Bubble Wrap's ventures in that, because we have a lot of like songs from our past that definitely delved into edgy 2008 internet humor that definitely would not fly today.
Oh yeah, I mean so much like I remember I was reading an article about how rape jokes were in
Hmm.
around the year 2008. Like I think it was might have been Dane Cook or some other comedian was like telling rape
Oh
jokes and
yeah,
that was their thing,
yeah, they were.
and just how
That
that's
was around
just
the time that yeah, I think around like between 2008 and 2010, like that kind of seems like the point in time where people started becoming a lot more socially conscious
hmm
of rape jokes and how not okay they were. Cause yeah, like I remember, I don't remember if it was, well, I'm sure Dane Cook, he probably got heat for it. I wouldn't know specifically, but I remember a specific incident with Daniel Tosh
maybe it was Daniel
where he
Tosh. I don't.
yeah,
They
it was
both
it
start
was
with D. Both are comedians. I'm not like super into.
yeah. Yeah. But like he said, he said he like made a joke about a girl in the crowd like getting raped, and
Yeah, that was it.
it like yeah, it set off a big internet firestorm. And that was around the time I started, there seemed to be like a shift in the winds. Um, but yeah, before that, I mean, especially like video game speak and people telling each other they're gonna rape each other, and you know,
I feel like that's still there. It's just like I feel like you and I just
yeah,
don't game as much, and I feel like
of
certain
course,
communities like never evolved past 2003, which I think
yeah,
is like those communities actually like kind of scare me a little bit, like
yeah,
because
they
they tend to be really toxic and like really just you know holding tightly to their thing that they don't want to change and just acknowledging that like
the world is ultimately about like change and learning new ideas, and you can still like what you like, but there's like different, societal cues that happen over time.
Yeah, yeah. The our culture is always evolving, and I always make the joke that like being a conservative is just standing on the sidelines of history screaming stop, stop. That's just people don't want society to change, but society is always going to change, and people are always going to kind of you know grow out of things, and we're always going to move forward in discovering that maybe things we used to engage in years ago, you know future generations are going to look back on it and be like, that actually wasn't cool, we're not going to do that you know
I mean, I would say in general, I think, usually the progressives have been shown to win throughout history in terms of like
yeah.
the ideology of ideas. But I think there is a healthy balance to conservatism, and I think, because there are times where the progressive stuff sometimes goes a little bit too far. So you do need that check and balance. And like not every conservative idea is bad in my opinion, but also like I think I'm much more of a centrist than you are. I follow the centrist pages and stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, but I definitely don't follow centrist pages. Um, but I wouldn't say that I believe the idea of something being conservative in and of itself is a bad thing. It's more so that just like in the current political climate, being a conservative usually just means you're against things for the sake of being against them.
I feel like it's more just as I'm like reading more into things, I feel it's more like just a neoliberal thing than necessarily conservative versus liberal. Where I think there's all this like culture war bullshit that we're getting caught in, and we're really avoiding like talking hard about like economic and foreign policy stuff we really need to focus on.
Oh
Where
yeah, that's basically neoliberalism in a
yeah,
nutshell. Is you keep people distracted with culture war stuff so that you don't have to fix the economy.
yeah, and I feel like that's, but I talk with a lot of I have a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, and in general, I'm trying to avoid blanket statements, but I feel like a lot of my conservative friends, tended to say, look, I think Hillary Clinton is going to take us into war. Donald Trump, I think, is less likely to start World War III with Russia, so that's why I voted for him. Like, who is more likely to start World War III, Donald Trump or Hillary
And and
Clinton?
and 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 back then, there was a conceivable argument to make
Yeah,
that
like
that that,
like
that was
back
the
then,
case.
like
You know, you
when it
know.
was Hillary versus Trump, you could definitely see someone saying, you know what, like I think Trump is a jerk, but you knew that Clinton was a war hawk, and you figured that Donald Trump, running businesses, like he was using the dog whistles and the rhetoric to appeal to like the worst part of the conservative base. He was absolutely doing that, but I could see why someone would have chosen him over Hillary Clinton at that time. Like when you're looking
Well,
at
he
those two
was he was
options,
a he was a populist bomb thrower.
right?
If you're that was what everyone was looking for at the time. That might not be the case in this election,
Yeah, no,
which is what the poll numbers are showing kind of the opposite
no,
right
we've got
now.
two just awful choices in this election. Like this is,
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think the Democrats would have learned their lesson from 2016. Like, let's not put up, the worst neoliberal candidate we possibly can, and
Yeah.
the thing is, I like Joe Biden a lot more than most of my left-leaning friends, because he's definitely flawed, but I think he doesn't actually get enough credit for the good ideas he has had. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot to criticize about him, but I feel if you look at his overall record, he's actually done, in my opinion, a lot of good things that sort of get overshadowed by the bad. Like he's a mixed bag where like Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, just both absolute trash. Both absolute trash. Both terrible. Biden, at least to his credit, he's a mixed bag. He is too far entrenched in you know, sucking up to the neoliberal establishment. Absolutely, but at
Yeah.
least he's a mixed
He
bag as opposed to absolute trash.
he wrote the crime bill which got us to the police brutality stuff. Well, the police brutality has always been going on, but the crime bill he wrote did make it worse. So
Right.
that's probably like one of the biggest things that I'd criticize him for.
But also, like, he did actually have some more nuanced, like, foreign policy decisions when it came to the Iraq stuff, where even though, he supported the war, like, he had a lot of really good post-war plans that he doesn't really get enough credit for, and
Yeah.
like helping to
Yeah,
stabilize
I
the
don't, I don't,
country.
I don't know exactly how involved he was in the Iran nuclear deal, but that was a pretty good deal. I don't know if that was more Obama's thing or if he had a lot to do with it or not.
Not as much. That was more Obama's thing, but I would still say like the left. I'm saying like a lot of the left isn't giving him enough credit. Like there were actually some times in history where I thought that Biden would have been a good candidate for president. Based upon like who the other options were at the time. Right now, I think he is absolutely not the ideal candidate. Like not even close. But there were other times, like when I was in high school and I was looking at like the list of candidates available. Like, you know what? Biden actually has a good strategy for what to do with Iraq. I think it was like 2008 when I was looking at like potential candidates, and I thought Biden was one of the better ones, and they went with Obama instead. But I thought at the time like Biden had one of the better foreign policies of that group available.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to speak to that because I don't even remember Biden running before now. Like, I vaguely remember the primary between Obama and Hillary. Like, I don't even remember Biden
That
being
was
a
the
part of
real
that.
battle of 2008. Like that,
Yeah.
like the general election was a little bit more of a joke, and I actually voted for McCain. I gave him a pity vote because I did like McCain a lot. I thought Palin was crazy, but I did think that McCain was a good dude. And honestly, in retrospect, I think McCain actually might have been a better president than Obama. Because Obama really like dived in hard into the neoliberal stuff. Like he just completely.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and that's um, and I would say Trump is guilty of this too. When they campaign as a populist,
Right.
and then they get into office, and then they do the opposite of everything they said they were going to do.
Right.
And Trump is the exact same way. Like he's been serving the Republican establishment. He's been like one of the first things he did when he got into office was the tax bill and I mean like the tax bill is the exact opposite of populism.
Right.
It was a giant giveaway to corporations and the rich.
Yeah, I am just for me just absolutely shocked at the like utter train wreck with how he is handling the pandemic crisis. Like I wasn't expecting, this level of incompetency from Trump, where, I always thought of Trump as just like, making some some economic decisions that were good for, Wall Street, not good for the average American. Some foreign policy decisions that were actually pretty decent. If I'm being completely honest, like his foreign policy wasn't that bad. His issues with the way he treated like families at the border, horrific. So I didn't hate him as much as all the liberals did. But I'm just like, all right, well at least he had some good foreign policy things. But when you're like his utter like incompetence with this crisis is something I wasn't prepared for him to just like drop the ball this completely. Like
I
even
was
some of my conservative friends are just like, man, I love Trump, but like he is messing up big time now.
Well, I was talking to Julia about this last night. Julia is my partner for those listeners who might not know. And like, okay, Trump like I consider Trump to be really, really bad, and consider him to be probably one of the worst presidents we've ever had. Maybe second to like Andrew Jackson or something, slaughtering all the Native Americans or something like that.
I think Trump's bad. I don't know. There's probably a couple others in between him and Jackson. Like, don't get me wrong. He's like bottom tier. He's bottom tier, but like I think it's just like, man, only Andrew Jackson's where like there's a couple.
Yeah. But like he has been worse than normal lately.
Yeah, no, I like the thing is like I was expecting in terms of this crisis, for him to like not do what is the best thing you could do to fix the situation, but I was expecting like just more competency in his response, where I would think,
Yeah,
okay, I
like
don't agree with what you're doing, but at least you're doing something that makes sense. It's just like he clearly doesn't know what to do, is fumbling at every turn, and just isn't exhibiting leadership at all, and it's honestly really shocking.
And that's that's kind of why like all Biden has to do is jerk off in his basement.
Yeah, he just
and
like
not
Biden just
say
has
anything.
to not mess up. Like that's just
Yeah.
all he has to do. Is just like he has to just not be an utter train wreck, and he's polling so far ahead of him, and obviously people are scared of because of what happened last time with the polls, but like.
Well, I don't think people give the polls enough credit last time. The polls actually weren't that far off last time. Like everyone in the media was so sure Hillary was going to win, but like the actual polls were only showing her up by like 2 to 4 points, which is in the margin. Like the polls even weren't that far off. But this time, the polls are just like Biden is towering over Trump in the polls right now. And I think that's just because people are so sick of the crisis, and people are just so like they're just seeing how bad Trump is doing as far as leading the country through a crisis. And there's kind of this like effect where at first during a crisis, people kind of rally around the president, because people want to feel patriotic and they want to rally around their leader. But if the crisis goes on too long, then people start turning on the president. And I think that's what we're seeing now and you're going to have a lot of people this time around who are just like, oh my God, anyone but this guy.
Well, I don't think it's people do rally around a leader in times of crisis. Like you look at Bush after 9/11, like everyone, liberal, conservative, we're just like, this is our dude. We're going to Afghanistan.
His approval rating shot up after 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone was behind him. Everyone was behind him. And I think the thing is, you can't blame Trump for the crisis. You really can't, because like this was, a situation that I wouldn't wish upon anyone to have to deal with. With the coronavirus, and the economic collapse that caused, and then just like, oh look, another Great Depression. Like you wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But I think the difference is just like you need a strong response to it. And that's where the issue is that he didn't respond strong. Because, like, when leaders respond during times of crisis, like, they rally behind them. And so even if the crisis was continuing, even if we were still struggling, which we absolutely would be, if he was, a strong, unifying presence, like, people would be like, this is our guy. Like, I feel like if Trump said, I'm going to, do what we can, to take care of American families, get them through this crisis, past like some, help push through, because obviously, he doesn't have legislative power, but like really push through like, a rent freeze and maybe like, more stimulus payments for the, for the average Americans, not just one. Like, if he was that unifying force, I feel he would win this election in a landslide. Like, I don't think it would be close.
Yes.
But because he botched
true.
it so hard, like, he had a softball. Like, the situation is terrible in terms of, like, the difficulty of it. But in terms of, like, what is obviously the right political choice and what is obviously best for the country, he just fumbled and he cracked under pressure. Like, he just wasn't able to handle the pressure of it. And I mean, to a degree, I get that. It's a very difficult job, but he just showed like he doesn't have the leadership skills to handle a crisis.
Yeah, and I think that's obvious to most Americans, and that's probably why, and I don't want to speak in absolutes because I get kind of embarrassed whenever I see some of my left-leaning friends on Facebook who were just so sure Biden's going to win. Because last time, they were just so sure Hillary was going to win, too. Like, they're so confident in it. And I don't want to, like, project any false sense of confidence in just, like, oh, yeah, Biden's got this in the bag, because I think that's just, like, you shouldn't do that because then you're just asking for people to laugh at you later. But with the evidence that we have now, for how things are going. It's looking like most people are looking at Trump like, okay, you're obviously not handling this well, and
Right.
we need someone else.
I mean, sort of like what I look at as best case scenario for this election is that Trump gets remembered as like a Herbert Hoover type, where just like he inherited a mess and everyone blames him for it. The difference being that like Hoover actually tried to fix it and just wasn't successful in time, versus like Trump is just spinning his wheels, doesn't know what he's doing, and
Yeah. Well, I think he's going to be remembered as just kind of a buffoon. He's going to be
Yeah.
remembered as like the reality show the reality show guy who got elected.
Right. Well, but as as part two to that, because FDR was like a hardcore like plutocrat, and basically like before he became president, was always like uh, sucking up to his rich donors, and was just all about like big business, and
Mhm.
then just through the nature of like where the country was, and the way Hoover acted, he basically had no choice but to be a progressive. Like he was just
Mhm.
forced into it. And so that's sort of what I would say is like the best case scenario of Biden, where just like he just is forced into, just because of the circumstances, has to make
Yeah.
big progressive changes, and then he could be remembered as the next FDR and could be remembered as one of the greatest presidents, which would be hilarious for those of us who like grew up and like knew what he wanted to do. But he might be forced into being the next FDR. Like he might have to. He might not have
I
a
mean,
choice.
that's best case scenario, but I'm not going to hold my breath on
I mean,
that.
that's best case. I'm not holding my breath. I mean,
You know,
I
he,
liked what.
you know, I think at the very least what we're going to get is like Obama 2, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel, and man, what I feel, man, I feel such mixed feelings on the Obama presidency, because I feel that people like I feel he wasn't actually a very good president, but people criticize him for the wrong reasons all the time, and it drives me nuts. Like the conservative friends of mine who rag on Obama, like they're just like there's so many good reasons to attack him as a bad president, and they're just picking all the wrong reasons, and it drives me nuts. Like the
Yeah,
fact that he was basically like
yeah.
George W. Bush too, like basically all the same policies for the most part, except he was just more efficient at enacting them. Like he was basically the same as Bush in almost every way, and
And a lot of foreign policy. I mean, like something that liberals don't want to admit is the fact that he took us from we were in 2 wars by the time Bush's presidency ended, and then Obama took us to 7, or yeah, I think 7.
so yeah, this is the first time I've really delved into politics on the channel. So it'll be interesting to see how many subscribers I lose after this one.
Oh yeah, well,
But
I mean,
that's what you get with honesty and freeform podcast, where just basically nothing's off limits.
yeah. Well, to bring it back to music, is that the album I'm working on is actually very political. So
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. So this is a new Nuclear Bubble Wrap release, or is it Holy Bong
yeah,
Water?
yeah. The new Nuclear Bubble Wrap release is the album is called Problematic, and it's kind of just it's kind of an album that's about all the frustrations that I think the millennial generation in general feels about the state of the world.
Yeah, I was actually talking with my dad, where he was not understanding why millennials don't care about property rights, and and as you know, I'm more of a centrist than you are, so I
Yeah, because none of us own property.
right, but that's what I was explaining to him, is that
Yeah.
our generation is the first generation, since the Great Depression, to experience like this economic decline, where we are less well off than our parents, and then the generation after us is less well off than us, and so like seeing this downward spiral of economic prosperity, and us, not most of us, there are some of us, who have done better, who can afford property, but most of us can't, and so
Mhm.
that is why a lot of millennials don't respect property rights. Now that said, I feel like once again, I think there are points where it becomes too extreme, and I think that attacking someone because they have property is a little bit too radical for my blood. Like there are reasons where one could enter into a revolutionary phase, but there are certain middle class people. Because my audience here is mostly boomers and Gen Xers, and I feel it doesn't make any sense to me to just attack an innocent person just because they have a house, and some of the riot and looting, I don't understand attacking a business that has nothing to do with anything. I understand peaceful protest. But someone just trying to get by, especially a lot of minority businesses getting attacked too, and I feel that doesn't contribute to the cause in any way. That's just hurting an innocent bystander.
Yeah, well, if you're referring to the stuff going on at the protest, they have discovered. Now, I don't know the exact amount of it, but they have discovered a lot of the people that were starting the riots were actually white supremacists.
Yeah, no,
pretending
the guy
who
who set City Hall on fire in Nashville. That dude is a white supremacist. Fuck that guy. What a piece of shit. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, and I understand that there are people inciting the violence. But once again,
for nefarious reasons that have nothing to do.
But
with
the people who are just robbing stores and stuff, especially small business owners. I to a degree I understand the corporate fuck the man and I'm gonna rob the Nike store. I wouldn't do that, but I understand just the anger at the large corporations. I wouldn't do it, but I get it. But the small businesses, the mom and pop shops who are getting destroyed, that to me that's just madness. I don't see any reason to do that.
For the most part online, now I spend a lot of time in leftist spaces, and for the most part, most of what I see is people condemning anybody who is looting or destroying a small business. For the most part, people are against that. People think that small business owners are just like everyone else, and they're struggling, and they don't have boatloads of cash. So I'll see a lot of people saying oh yeah, condemn anyone who's fucking up a mom and pop shop, but I have no sympathy for Target.
But there's still violence that ensues, and then the people there when they're struggling economically just to get by, and then those people, they have their store destroyed, and then they're laid off, and also people the workers might get hurt in the process. People who are just around might get hurt. I don't and obviously for people who are on my channel, they saw that video I did on Gay Boys and the song Gay Boys, and then I talked about Black Lives Matter and how I think I have cops in my family, and they're good, honest people, but I also think we have a police system that needs massive reform, and we need to address these serious issues. These things can be simultaneously true. There can be good cops, and you can need massive reforms, and the massive frustrations and the protests and stuff I get. And I'm just a hippie. I'm just any innocent life. I don't want any innocents hurt. I just want people taken care of. I want peace. I understand the frustration. I just don't want to see people get hurt. Is where I'm at with things.
Yeah, I'm not so into the idea of the big revolution that a lot of internet leftists kind of jerk off to. I kind of noticed that a lot of these the people who advocate for the violent revolution, they're always these people on the internet who imagine themselves being some sort of government official in the communist regime when all is said and done, and it's that's not going to be you, dude. That's not if we actually went full blown communism, you would be in the gulag with everyone else. Don't even pretend you would be running the gulag.
Right. I think if I'm being honest about the state of today's political affairs, what I really think happened is you can kind of trace a lot of this back to Obama, the divisiveness in the country, but for different reasons. What I think happened was Obama, being the first black president, awoken a lot of like the racists in this nation to get super fired up, and
Yeah, and
they
kind of
happen
led
to be on the
yeah.
right, and then you had, and the thing is, even though a lot of I would say the vast majority of my conservative friends, not racist at all, but because there was so much shouting on their side about how they were afraid of Obama, and a lot of the racists weren't saying it out loud, when they noticed their conservative peers saying, this guy's trouble, I think they bought into it too much. And so that made like a very sharp divide between right and left. And so you can trace it back to Obama. And if you look at a lot of his policies, like he wasn't doing stuff that was that radical that justified the massive divide. But I think just by virtue of him being the first black president, like caused this massive rift in the country. And that's not to say that I blame my conservative friends who don't like him. And there's believe me, there's a number of reasons to think that he is a shitty president. But I think that caused such a huge rift. And then I think Donald Trump was the worst possible follow-up to that, because he was pouring gasoline on the fire, like, we got a rift, let's keep it going, and just made it even further.
Yeah. Well,
and it pushed people it pushed people so far to both extremes where the radical leftists are, like the far left people are some of the stupidest people that I know at this point, where they're just they're so far gone, where they're basically fascists at that point.
Well, what I think you're right about the rift on the conservative side, and but there was also what led to the rise of leftism is actually not just Trump. A lot of people would probably say oh yeah, Trump was so crazy and so bad that it caused this leftist uprising. What it actually was I think Obama brought it on too, because a lot of a large chunk of the left is people our age who perhaps the first vote we ever cast was a vote for Obama. A lot of us. And
it was my first vote. I voted for him in the primary. So I voted McCain in the general election, but I'm like, fuck Hillary Clinton. I'm voting for Obama.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he was one of your first votes then.
Yeah.
So a lot of us voted for Obama because of the populist rhetoric, and I don't know how if other people would relate to this kind of sentiment, but when I was a lot younger, I wouldn't say I knew a lot about economic issues. In high school, I was very in tune with social issues and the culture war. I was in high school, I was a big crusader for gay rights.
I think a lot of us were, because we didn't have to pay rent, so that's why we didn't notice as. And I think that's where a lot of teenagers get their passion, where they can look on the internet, but look at all this injustice. But then when you graduate high school, right when the economy collapses, you're like, oh shoot, this is the actual problem, is that we've been spinning plates for the last 100 years, because Woodrow Wilson is like, what, who needs the gold standard, am I right? Central banking.
Yeah, so I remember, when Obama was elected and Obamacare was getting pushed through Congress, I can remember very distinctively, my parents, people in my family, people that I knew on just random conservatives on the internet, everybody was calling Obamacare socialism, and my dad was ranting against Obamacare by calling it everything being free. And now, at this point in time, I was starting to become aware that the United States was the only developed country to not have a universal healthcare system. And I knew that universal healthcare was the thing that we needed to be striving for. So now I didn't know, I was paying close attention to what Obamacare actually was. But everybody I know who was a conservative was telling me that it was universal health care.
It's not even close. It's
and then when I learned what it actually was, I was fucking pissed.
No,
I was just like, seriously? Everybody kept going on and on about how we were socializing medicine and how Obama's a communist and all this shit. And everybody was talking about Obamacare like it was universal health care. And then I learned that I still have to pay these outrageous premiums and copays and
Blue Cross Blue Shield is still getting paid. It's basically just, it's a way for you to, if you lose your job, because I actually work in healthcare for my day job, and so what it is if you lose your job or choose to buy through the marketplace, they have like time periods where you can choose to buy an insurance policy, and sort of the same as a work policy, except it's more expensive. So you are actually paying more for this policy, which isn't very good. And it expanded Medicaid in some states, but not all.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the states all have their own different Medicaid systems. And so for some states, Obamacare was good for, like, low-income families, but you had to be, like, in a certain classification of being a certain age, having dependent children, or being disabled. And so those would be the qualifications. And then let's just say you were just a single person and you lost your job. Tough shit. You don't get insurance for that. You don't get any assistance for that. In terms of at least medical help, depending on the state. But then, like some states, you could be a single person and get laid off from your job, and then you would actually get health insurance. So, like Ohio, if you're a single person our age and you lose your job, you have zero income, congratulations, you can get health care. Alabama, that same thing happens. Just tough. They basically tell you to eat shit and die. And so it's like, and the fact that it's state by state, like, all it did was basically allow certain single people, to get health care when they lose their jobs, sometimes, depending on the state they live in.
But isn't this so needlessly complicated while every other developed country just has universal health care? Like, it seems so inane.
Oh, I mean, that's what eats up a lot of the cost, because there's so much administration and the different ways that different healthcare companies desire to be billed, and then verifying the different insurances. And then some insurance companies make it very easy to verify insurance, and some make it very difficult. And so you're, like, on the phone for half an hour verifying the insurance, and it's so convoluted. It requires this massive administrative structure, which to a degree I understand why there's some hesitancy in getting rid of it, because a lot of people are going to be out of work. Like, that is a huge chunk of our economy, and that would potentially, like, put me out of work if we got universal health care. And so it just, I would have to find new work, most likely, because my position wouldn't be needed, because I am one of those people verifying insurance in this overly convoluted web. And so for me personally, it's probably like a hurt for me economically to support that, kind of system. But I think it is so good for the nation as a whole that, like, it's what needs to be done. And so I support that, even though it would force me to, like, have to, seek different employment and work for the future.
I mean, it goes back to that, like, societal progression thing. It's like when the telephone was invented, if we couldn't just sit around going, but what about all the people with the Morse code jobs? Like.
Yeah, and it's really, really rough, man. But I think one of the things is we as Americans have used socialism as, like, a boogeyman tactic for too long. We're just
no one knows what it actually is. Like nobody who uses the word socialism is even using it correctly at this point. Even the people who are identifying as socialists, like Bernie Sanders and AOC, they're not really socialists.
Right.
Like,
so what I would say is that we in terms of, like, most of the developed world, we're, like, far more right-leaning than most developed countries.
Yeah.
And I think we have gotten so far into a libertarian philosophy, we're just like, the government doing anything is considered, like, evil and bad, and just any government is bad. And the thing is, like most things
so
in life,
vote for me to run the government.
Right.
Government is bad, so vote for me to run it.
But like most things in life, there's a balance. And I think, like, we can all agree that, like, child labor laws are good. Making sure little 5-year-olds aren't working in factories is probably a good thing. Like, there's a certain degree of government that is good. Now, we can argue about
building codes.
Right, but we can argue. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to fear too much government, and what is the efficiency of government? So like, is the government the most efficient thing to do this? But
And I was talking about this yesterday too. I just think that the idea of like even having the conversation about small government versus big government as if either of those things are an inherently good thing or inherently bad thing, like that in and of itself is a fallacy, because it's all on a case-by-case basis. You can't just make a blanket statement and just say that like big government or small government is just the way to go. It's just like sometimes big government is good and sometimes big government is bad. Big government is good if it's ensuring that everybody in the country can have health care. Big government is bad if it's, a bunch of police cracking down on people with small amounts of marijuana.
But also, look at it this way. Like, people who are just like, I want as little government as possible. But, you have like the police situation where you have leftists who, generally are like more government. They're like, let's get rid of these police forces. And so that's sort of like, kind of an opposite.
Isn't that less government? If you're getting rid of the police, that's less government, right?
Right, but I'm saying like the leftists are the ones who usually want more government, but when they're saying, hey, let's get rid of this government institution.
Oh, I see.
And so it's I feel like we're just getting too like caught up in these like dogmatic wars over stuff that doesn't matter, and we're using boogeyman terms instead of just like saying, you know what, let's just try what works. And if it doesn't work, then try something different. So let's say, you know what, try universal health care. If it works, great, because like, Medicare works, and Medicaid in a lot of the states that are expanded, like Ohio's Medicaid system is great. Washington's, Massachusetts has a great Medicaid system. There are a lot of states that have proven that these programs can work. And so it's more of a, less about, hey, this is, this rigid ideology and like, everything fits into this box. Like, I'm more about just like do what works, what's the best for most people, and try not to, hurt people in the process. Like, try to figure out a way that like benefits as many people as possible. Like, figure out a way to benefit the average working class American and the billionaire. Like, there's a way for everybody to win.
Yeah.
Instead of the billionaire winning like so much more than the working class person. Like, we can all win. We just have to find a way to, work together to make everybody win. And so like that's why I'm all about, pragmatism, what actually works. And so, that's one of the reasons I jumped ship from Bernie to Andrew Yang was because I love Bernie and I love his passion. But when I looked at like actual implementation of ideas, I felt like Bernie Sanders was a little bit too 1940s, and Andrew Yang was more like 2040. And so like he was like ahead of the curve of where we needed to be, and Bernie I think was just trying to play catch up to where we just should be at this point.
Yeah. And that's definitely true. I mean, Bernie is, he's modeling his entire political, his ideology is rooted in like, New Deal Democrats, like FDR kind of stuff.
He's a New Deal Democrat, which is great, and like we should be at that point. But like, we have to acknowledge that like that's not enough at this stage. Like, you got to be like you got to be jumping ahead.
And what's so annoying, especially with the Democratic primaries, like what's so annoying is, you're talking about let's see what works and let's do it. Well, like, we can already see where universal health care works. It works in every other developed country, literally every other one.
And they used to make the argument that, oh, well, our care is so much better. Like, it's been proven to not be better. Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
And, the long waits, like, we still have long waits in this country. Like, that's still a thing for elective surgeries and such. Like, that's still a thing. And the thing
not
is,
for
other
rich people.
Yeah, but in other countries, they still have, like, private doctors you can see if you have extra money. Like, a lot of other places have that hybridization where if you have the money, you can do it.
Yeah. And it's just, I find it so annoying that every election we have to have this fight about healthcare where we keep pretending that we aren't the only country to not be doing it. It's just so fucking annoying. I hate seeing Bernie Sanders up there with all these other Democrats, and they're all arguing about Bernie's idea of Medicare for all, and they're all talking about it as if we don't already see the evidence all over the rest of the world. They're just all pretending that universal healthcare is this pie in the sky idea that's never been tried before.
I mean, there's so much money tied into it, which is like, remember, this is like a huge chunk of the economy that's tied to healthcare, and it's one of the few industries that is thriving right now. As we're in this economic collapse, like, unless universal healthcare gets passed, I have one of the more secure jobs out there, and it's really an absolute crazy time in which we live in. It's very just once I think it's disappointing how many people, like, I don't want to act like one of those guys like, oh, I'm so above the fray, because I have friends who act intellectually superior to other people, and they're just like, ho, all these plebs, and I know what's really going on. But I feel there's so much of the discourse has been dominated by these like ideological red herrings distracting us from what the real problems are. And but to the credit of a lot of people, I think a lot of people are starting to call out the bullshit, and it's being called out more often. And that's actually one of the benefits of the internet and long form discussions, is that this is starting to bubble up into the mainstream, where you have like Joe Rogan's show, where you get into a lot of these discussions. You have alternative news sources like The Hill going into a lot of this stuff and really addressing it. And you have even like Andrew Yang starting a podcast, and to his credit, like, he has endorsed Biden, but he hasn't backed off from his messages or ideals at all, and is just like doing it with his nonprofit instead, and just like, all right, well, fuck it, I'm just going to still do all the things I would do as president on a smaller scale and do as much as I can for the country. But he's still doing UBI stuff. He's actually working on this cool initiative to get you money for your data usage, where he's trying to take on Google and Facebook and give everyone the option to opt out of their data usage, or if they choose to give it to those companies, get a cut of it, and saying that data is the new oil. And so I think that's just cool that he's just like, fuck it, I might not be president, but I'm still going to try to do good for the country. That's awesome.
And that's the difference between a lot of these empty suit politicians and the politicians who actually care. I mean, you can say the same about Bernie Sanders and AOC and people like that. Like, they're still out there doing stuff even when they're not focused on campaigning or whatever.
I give them huge credit. Bernie just went back, to his regular job and was kicking ass, fighting for people. Didn't skip a beat. And I'm just like, hell yeah, good for you.
Yeah. And that's that's what we need more of, and that's why primaries are really important. And Biden's going to go up against Trump, and we lost the primary this time, but we got to get ready for 2024.
I mean, look, we all know they did Bernie dirty. Like, the fact that everyone dropped out at the same time, all of a sudden,
that was Bloody Monday. Yeah,
no, that was They did him dirty, and it's kind of a bummer, because I loved him walking around with that big dick energy during the debates. That was when he was leading by so much, and
it was going a little too well for us.
Right.
We got to admit.
Yeah, but it was so great when I remember during one of the debates, someone was commenting being flippant with him. I'm sorry, who's winning? Oh, right, that's me, so let me continue.
Yeah.
And it's just damn, that big dick energy, you do it, Bernie. I just loved that, that the swagger was awesome, but, but I think there is something to be said of just, we do need to get some younger people in there. I love Bernie, and I think he's great, but we got, the stress that job puts on you, and, because I am worried for the health of, Trump, if he gets another term, word that he'll die from the stress. Biden, word that he'll die from the stress. And if Bernie had gotten it, I'm worried that he would have died from the stress. Just because, being that old in that office, that is a rough, stressful job. And, and that was another part of the reason why, Yang was appealing. And it's not to say, oh, Greg doesn't like old people. It's just policy wise and just like health wise, I felt like Yang would be better able to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's safe to say now the era of Bernie is over. Bernie is no longer the, he's not going to run again.
Yeah.
And, the mantle is going to be passed to like the next like leftist candidate that we have in 2024.
Yeah.
And that might be.
I really hope they don't try to do
that
to AOC.
That could be Yang. That could be somebody else. But
I think AOC is like way too divisive. I think she has. I think that AOC.
She has the name recognition.
She has name recognition, and she's not corrupt. And those are two big things where I don't agree with her on a lot of stuff, but I at least like respect her integrity. And I think she doesn't get enough credit for that from conservatives, where like they just like out and out hate her. And like there are certain conservatives,
well, they're being told by Fox News to hate her for
right, but there are certain conservatives where like I'll disagree with them, but like I'll respect the hell out of their integrity and just like, what, I don't agree with your policies necessarily, but I at least respect where you're coming from and like know you can't be bought. And so like even though like I'm more of a left leaning guy, like if I see a like conservative which say I know you're not bought, like I trust them more than like a Pete Buttigieg, where like I took a political quiz and I actually basically matched up with him on all the issues, but I don't trust that dude as far as I can throw him. Just because like you just know he's just so bought and part of the machine. And so like even though like on paper I theoretically agree with him, I know once he would get into office, he wouldn't actually do the things that he says he agrees with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's that's how basically all the politicians are. They, at least the ones that are smart enough to be populist on the campaign trail, and they get into office and they do the exact opposite of all this stuff. Klobuchar was a little bit unique in that she wasn't pretending to be populist. She was just straight up being no, I'm for corporations. That's what I am. I'm for corporations. She was actually telling the truth, at least.
Right. And, hey, I'll give her, credit for that. Like, be honest of, like, where you stand with stuff. So, but, then a lot of them probably wouldn't get elected if they were honest with where they stood with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just this government is just so stinking incompetent right now. Like, Pelosi is terrible. Schumer is terrible. Mitch McConnell is one of the greatest villains in American history. Like, it's just... And I think there's this collective rage that is felt from so many people where they feel like both parties are betraying them so hard. And, like, they're really looking for that alternative option, but there's just, like, there's not the infrastructure for it. And,
no, there's not.
And every time it's just... that third party takes away votes.
Third parties aren't going to have.
They take away votes from only one of the two parties, and that's the issue. It allows someone else to sneak in, like with Teddy Roosevelt and the Bull Moose Party. It split the Republican ticket so the Democrats could get in, and then you had freaking Perot, getting the Republicans to go over to him and giving Clinton enough of that edge. And so I really liked what Brett Weinstein's idea, where he suggested that you get a center-left politician and a center-right politician, and like the only criteria was like they had to be patriots, they had to not be corrupt, and they had to be like really like team-oriented. Have one of them run as president, one run as vice president, but they act as a team, make all the decisions together, and then the next election cycle they flip. So whoever was the president ran as the vice president, and whoever was the vice president ran as the president, and they just ran as a team. And he thought that would be the way to like get out of the two-party system with like a ticket like that, which I would absolutely vote for. Like
I think the way to get out of the two-party system is ranked choice voting. Is you basically change it so that on the ballot you get to put in your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. And if we had that, then there's probably a chance that you could actually see some third parties actually shaking things up. Like right now there's just such a biased infrastructure against them.
Where
You know,
where
they're
where
they're
where is ranked choice voting? Like, do any countries have that?
um I think a few do. Let me see.
Yeah, because I don't know of any
Pretty
countries
sure
that have
they're
that particular system. But I mean, that's just because I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of every voting system in the world. But with all the other countries
yeah.
that have more than one party, um, what are
Let's
you
see.
finding?
Um, I'm finding um, I'm finding select places where it is used in the U.S.
Okay.
Apparently, Berkeley, California, Benton County, Oregon. Um, oh, Maine just has it. Apparently,
Oh,
Santa
all liberal
Fe.
states. No way.
Yeah, yeah.
What a
Um,
shocker. That Oregon is going to be like super hardcore progressive. No way. I can't
yeah.
believe it.
Ranked choice voting in other countries. Australia apparently has it.
Oh, right on.
Um, and New Zealand.
Now, New Zealand is
Uh,
a country that has their shit together. Like, goddamn, do they make us look bad? But they already
yeah,
got rid of COVID.
yeah.
It just. I am like sincerely curious as to what people think makes us the quote unquote best country in the world. Um, I think there's,
Incarceration.
but I think there's a lot to be said about sort of the genius of the founding fathers and the government that they set up, especially for like the time they were in. And so there's something to be said about like the genius of the founding and a lot of the things that we've done as a nation. But I think to like say in 2020 we are the greatest nation in the world is just like objectively untrue. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like anybody who actually believes that is just propagandized.
and I think
Like
part of
like
it.
like 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 we have the internet now. This is something that I keep trying to explain to my dad. People people in the US just aren't going to passively accept shitty lives where you don't have access to healthcare when we can just go on Facebook and talk to somebody who lives in Canada,
Right,
like
and I think
or
that's a thing is that through us on the internet, we've had much more experience. Like since we grew up with the internet, we have a lot more international friends, and especially those of us who are musicians who tour, and you're
yeah,
crossing paths with people from all over the world. So like I've got musician friends in Japan, over in Europe, up in Canada,
yeah,
over in Asia. So I have all these musicians that I know from all over the world, and they have vastly, different opinions on things. Like some of my Russian friends are like a little bit awkwardly racist, but like I have to decide like how much of a pass do I give you because of like you just having such a different culture thing and me just trying to teach you and like grow and learn. And then how much is like, yo, dog, that's not cool. Because you have to understand like everyone's coming from a different starting point, and so I'm trying not to judge too much, but you have you know these people with all these different perspectives from all these different countries, and it's I think once you get like the international perspective on things, it makes you really like shift your worldview. So like if you've only ever like talked with other Americans, you can get stuck in this little box. But like I was talking with
yeah,
one of my
yeah.
Canadian buddies when this pandemic hit, and I asked him how he was holding up. He's like, "Oh man, I'm all good. Like I'm getting paid my full salary just to stay at home. Government's taking care of me." And like compare that to us, and
Yeah.
just like it's just that's not that far. That's a day drive. You know.
Yeah. That's insane. When the pandemic started, I remember talking to my dad about just things other countries were doing. I was like, yeah, other countries are doing like UBI like systems. Other countries are nationalizing payrolls, and my dad just laughed and goes, "Oh well, I'm not for that." And it's just like, well, but
Like,
why not though?
it's like, look, there's what this pandemic has proven to a lot of people is that there's the myth of like hard work and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you can achieve the American dream. And this has proven that like you can have done everything right and still get screwed. Small business
Right.
owners, like you can't control a global pandemic. You can still get screwed. And so there comes a certain point where you need a social safety net for at least bare minimum emergency situations. So you could be like, I am against UBI because I think it makes people lazy. I personally disagree, but I can understand that. But I think it's very reasonable to say I am against UBI, but because we're in the middle of this crisis where, so many people are out of work, temporary UBI until Corona passes, until the economy can open up, I think is a reasonable stance to take. We're just like, everyone gets $1,000 a month until this passes, which isn't enough. But it still would be, I think that's a reasonable stance to take. Say, hey, this is an emergency situation. It's unprecedented. Until we get through this, let's enact this policy. And then if you wanted to get rid of it afterwards, I would disagree because of the oncoming automation crisis. But I at least get that. But to be like against UBI in the situation that we're currently in, I think is just so stuck in ideology that you're just not looking at like what is going on the ground level.
Right, exactly. You're just so ingrained and you're just if your entire identity is and I've been using the example of my dad because it's like the closest person to me who has this kind of ideology, but like he's totally like Ayn Rand objectivism, and if you don't
go out of that after high school, it's like it's really embarrassing. Just like, man, I was really listening to Rush, and I totally got it, man. I totally got the way of life. If you just don't let the government do anything, everything will be fixed. Name one good thing the government has done ever.
Yeah, and so of course, this pandemic hits, and he's still in his mindset of just like anything bad that happens to you is your own fault and your fault only, and if you had just lived life right, you could have prevented it. And it's like we're in a pandemic where we have like 20% unemployment, and he's just like, I'm against UBI because objectivism.
But during this pandemic, a lot of people just they can't go out and get work. So if you are out of work because of this pandemic, and let's say you don't have a computer, you can't do work from home, you can't find a remote call center job. There are a lot of people who are just out of work, can't find work, there isn't work available. That's not through any fault of their own. It's just the rug got pulled out from under us. And I'm so grateful that I'm still employed, that I'm still able to, support my household the best I can. We've lost some income because of this, but I'm still able to, make rent and provide food for the family. So I'm so grateful I'm able to do that, but not everyone can, and it is just a absolutely nightmarish hell on earth time right now for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we can see that other countries are handling it better, and it's just kind of like, a joke I like to make is that is that so many Americans so many Americans just think that America is the only country on earth, you're so ingrained in just America-centrism that your entire worldview is based on having lived on this specific slab of dirt and having never interacted with what goes on anywhere outside of the US. And it's just when you actually open your eyes to what's going on in other countries and see that what centrism actually is basic social democracy. Bernie Sanders is a centrist, he's everywhere else.
He's in some circles would be considered conservative by other nation standards. He's just a far leftist by the standards of the incredibly conservative United States.
Yeah. People call him the far left over here, but it's just if you look outside the bubble of America, it's no, he's actually not that far left at all. Actual leftists wish he was far left, So it's just kind of this thing where people are so stuck in this bubble and they won't look outside of, they won't look outside the border.
Well, I think that's probably just a thing that a lot. I think we're having this perspective as Americans who love our country and are frustrated because we want it to do better, and we know we have every like capability of doing that. Like, the only reason is just a lack of willingness for the electorate to be informed. And so I feel like, if there was a way to, like, get people, like, out of the programming and, like, I hate, like, the terminology, like, wake up, sheeple. But if there was a way to better communicate with people who disagree with you, like, to actually get them to sincerely listen. If there was a way to collectively do that, I think that would benefit the whole. Like, I've been listening to a lot of this guy named Jocko Willink, and he is like a slightly right leaning, but he doesn't get too political, and he's all about like leadership and hard work and personal motivation. And one of the things I've really respected him, honestly, in talking about how to approach people as a leader, and like, you don't demean their ideas. You try to, like, match their level. You try to, show them, where you have, like, the shared concerns. And then you try to, shift the conversation the way where you can ultimately get the productive thing done. So instead of, saying to these people, I am, so, like, let's take your dad, for example. If there was a way to say to him, as he's concerned about socialism, to say, like, I agree, I'm so concerned about the state of our country, and I just want to make sure that we don't fall to a communist regime, and I think that if we allow economic unrest to continue, that's going to happen. And, then lead into the conversation of saying, if we do, like, a temporary UBI thing, that can prevent us from falling into total chaos and anarchy, and that's the way to prevent that. And so, like, finding a way to, like, match their energy and get things forward. So if there was a way we could collectively do that as those of us who are, sort of paying attention to these issues, and instead of, like, talking down to people, can figure out a way to do that, which I'm not saying that you or I necessarily do, but if, like, these movements could do a better job of doing that, maybe that could be, like, a path forward to actually getting, some real significant change.
It's kind of like in order to reason with, people on the right, you kind of have to frame things from their point of view. So, like, one really easy thing to do is actually to it's, I've kind of noticed it's easy to get conservatives to agree with the idea of ending the war on drugs, because if you're framing it from the point of view of you want less government, right? You want more freedom, right? Well, since the 80s, we've been enacting this war on drugs, which stifles freedom, which stifles liberty, and locks people up necessarily, and waste a lot of government money.
It wastes a lot of money.
Yeah. So, and I have actually found, just personally, that it's actually really easy to get conservatives onto your side just by framing the argument that way.
Well, once again, I think that I feel like conservatives and liberals agree on a lot more issues than they realize, and that we're just caught up in the culture war stuff, where it's just like, okay, I understand, like, abortion and, gay rights.
Statues.
Yeah, there's going to be some dividing lines, and I get that. And there's, some places where there's not wiggle room. But I think that we all want a thriving middle class, and I think that, like, even the leftists, like, there's a lot of benefits to capitalism. Like, the capitalism has allowed great art to exist, like, through corporations working together to create a great film, or allowing distribution of music. Like, there is a absolute great place for the free market. But I think there's a point where there are certain problems that the market can't solve. Like, the market can't fix everything. The market can fix a lot of things. And there are some things that the market can do that the government absolutely cannot do, and the market is more efficient. But there are certain things that the market doesn't have the incentive to do that society still needs. And so there's not a way to profit off of it necessarily in terms of you as a business owner, but society needs it to function. And so that's where you need that balance of the two forces.
Yeah. Like I'm kind of the point of view of And I know that there's a lot of people who like the goalpost is different depending on who you're talking to. I'm kind of the belief that you can't have a profit motive in anything that is 100% required for survival. So obviously healthcare. In today's day and age, education. So that would be why universal healthcare and free college are like the top two main like left-wing issues of the day.
Yeah.
Now
I'm less
that we're
concerned about free college at this point because I
Yeah.
feel the importance of college in our society is dwindling so much as so many people have degrees and there aren't jobs for those people.
Right.
And so I would say that the skyrocketing costs concern me, and I think that colleges ultimately
Right.
there should be more options, lower cost options, and perhaps free options. But I feel like that is less important than the healthcare issue, just because they're largely becoming useless at this point. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can understand where that point of view is coming from. I think mainly what I'm driving at is, well, because the profit motive is there with colleges. That's part of why you have the skyrocketing cost and why you have the student loan debt crisis and all that stuff. And if you get rid of the profit motive, it's gonna be like if you get rid of the profit motive in healthcare, suddenly they can't price gouge you anymore because everybody's paying into this pool of resources and
yeah, and once again, there's the
risk
argument,
pool is spread around.
right? And there's the argument that there won't be innovation, if the profit motive is gone. Like, look, there are other countries that develop medicine and drugs, and they have socialized healthcare. Like, we're not the only country that develops things. And in fact, there's healthcare treatments that people will go to other countries to get because they're not available in the United States. So while we preach innovation, like, there's stuff that
on
you
the flip side,
yeah.
So on the flip side, to the argument that that capitalism produces innovation, one argument.
I think it does. I think it does to a degree. I think there's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't get without that.
You can say that it does to a degree. There is one specific example I will bring up where I actually think capitalism actively stifles innovation, and that is green technology. We are in a crisis with we are in this massive climate crisis where the scientists are telling us that we have to get off of fossil fuels, and our society actively refusing to, mainly because the people at the top, they just don't want to invest in the green technology. They like their short-term profits on the fossil fuels. And we are at a point with green technology and fossil fuels where there is more of an incentive to not innovate, to not move forward with green technology, even though it would be cheaper in the long run because they don't want to spend that money up front to invest in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on with that battle, because there are a lot of corporate interests in green technologies also, and I think that is just that is more of a battle of these giant corporate overlords from two separate sides. But ultimately, the green technologies are less harmful for the environment, so you're rooting for that corporate side to win. But nuclear technology at this point, is actually probably the most efficient, cost-effective, and they've gotten it to be much safer. Where, nuclear technology, when they first started using it, they had no idea what the fuck they were doing, and those were just, disaster zones waiting to happen. But at this point, nuclear is more efficient than, coal, gas, oil, and the green technologies, and cheaper. But because it has, the stigma around it, and, at this point it's safe, but, I feel like there's sort of this ideological battle between those two groups, and, maybe nuclear isn't getting its fair shake in the conversation.
It's probably not. I haven't looked into it as much. I'm not too entrenched on exactly
and
how.
Also for the people watching, we're a couple of idiots. So don't take us as these experts. We're just a couple musicians shooting the shit. So a couple old friends talking about stuff. So we're not experts in any of this. So it's just our opinions. fuck us. Don't worry about us.
Yeah. But that's like my general I would probably describe myself as like mostly a social democrat, in the vein of like an AOC or a Bernie Sanders type character, but I'd probably go a little bit further than like I want the Green New Deal to happen, obviously, but I even going further than like taking the profit motive out of healthcare and out of college, I'm actually pro taking the profit motive out of which that is we are only beginning to scratch the surface of talking about that.
So like my computer lagged at that point, and I actually didn't hear what the last thing you said, taking the profit motive out of. Where you said you were just scratching the surface.
Taking the profit motive out of housing.
Out of housing. I would say that is so. As far as
that's probably the logical next step.
There are two crises that I feel like are not getting nearly enough attention in the media coverage of what's going on with the American people. I think the automation crisis is basically ignored by everybody except Andrew Yang, who keeps shouting at it at the top of his lungs, guys, this is happening. We are so screwed. Do something about this. The automation crisis and the housing crisis. And because what you're having is this simultaneous thing where wages are going down and rent is going up. And that is a bad combination. And the thing is, we have enough housing in this country where there's more housing than there are people in this country. It's just we have a lot of property sitting there because people can't afford it. And so the housing market is just an absolute disaster. And you and I both know this, Nashville just is getting fucking screwed because all the people from New York and LA are buying up all the properties and forcing those of us who've been living here for years, forcing us out further and further away from the city limits. Which is just, absolute bullshit, and they're just, wrecking the city that we love for their, high-rise condos and all that bullshit.
Right, and I'm over here in Laverne, and I'm just we just signed a lease on this house for 2 more years, and I'm just yay, 2 more years of them hopefully not pricing us out.
Right, it's
because eventually they're going to.
And, but there's. I will give credit, to there have been some very cool, my landlord actually, helped us out, gave us a month off rent, and then charged us only half a month for a different month during the crisis, and now we're back to paying full. But what I'm saying is I want to give some credit to the people who are doing the right thing justifiably and trying to help out people, help out your neighbors, being a community, which is what the United States is. We're a large community. We should be looking out for each other. But I think something needs to be done about where the market is heading, because the unregulated capitalism, just the prices are going to keep going up and up and up and up. And I understand there is a fear of allowing the government to control things too much. And I get that, you as a business owner need to be doing, you don't want you want freedom to be able to set prices that are fair for the market. But at a certain point, the market will force so many Americans into homelessness. And that is a real issue that isn't being addressed. And like I said, if wages were going up, they were, in previous decades before the Reagan presidency, it'd be one thing. But because wages have been steadily going down, and then you've got, inflation, you've got the college tuition and the college loans, and you have housing going up.
This is another thing that and it's not just my dad, to bring up my dad again. This is something that I actually see across the board with people our age trying to explain this to our boomer parents. You try to explain to them that the cost of living has been going up for decades while the wages have remained stagnant. That is the main thing that the generational divide between millennials and boomers kind of comes down to. And it's just this refusal of them to acknowledge that this is happening. because
and more than that, because when
because
when we say
to acknowledge it is to admit that their generation fucked up the economy.
well,
And
it's more than just stagnant, because the thing is, when we say stagnant, it means they're not going up, but that's also not factored in for inflation, so they're actually have gone down. Like, I was talking with my mom where she's like, well, when I was right out of college, I was only making $10 an hour, and then I explained to her, right, but you had less student loans, and also that was over 30 years ago. So like that's where the issue is that 30 years ago, like the value of the dollar was different than it is today, and your rent was cheaper, you had less expenses, and so while I might be making more per hour than you were then, that value is actually less. And so it's going to be interesting, because this is going to be, like I said, my channel is largely boomers and Gen Xers, and so this is their chance to get like a peek into the psyche of like, what is the younger generation feeling, how are they feeling about this? And a lot of them, my viewers, because like they mainly know me as a music guy. And so, and this, I'm in many ways an old soul, and sort of like stick out like a sore thumb in my generation. Shoot, my wife is 15 years older than me, so like I'm not necessarily a normal millennial.
We made a lot of jokes about that at your roast party.
Oh well, let's not talk about that right now. That is, but for my generation, like we're going through, I think, a lot of difficulties, and that aren't really being acknowledged by the older generation, like as to why we have the grievances that we do, where we were sold growing up this promise of the American dream that your life could be better than the life of your parents if you worked hard, stuck to the grind, and did it. And then for those of us who actually like, stuck to the grind, worked hard, you went to school, you got the degree, you tried to get the job, but, for me who graduated when the economy crashed, the jobs weren't there. And I could make more money at a fast food job than my job with a degree. And so that's like the world that like we grew up into, and then they're like, well, you're so entitled. We had a pretty low expectation of just like doing a little bit better than our parents, maybe having a slightly bigger house, and being able to afford more vacations. But that was basically the expectation. We weren't expecting that much, and instead what we got was barely being able to scrape by. And I think that's led to the angst and frustration of the generation, because they're just so opposite. And because we have the internet, we've been able to do the research and understand historically what led up to it. Like we can, if you didn't grow up with the internet and you just saw the news and read your history books, and then once you were an adult, you just sort of went about your life, you might have missed all the stepping stones that led to this point. But for those of us who grew up with the internet and saw the crash happen before our eyes, like we read into it and looked into it, because like that was when we were becoming adults, and like, how did this happen? And then you look at the paper trail, you see where the breadcrumbs are, and you're like, oh, this is what caused this, and that's what led to so many of us being so upset about these things.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah. And it's just it's just kind of sad that it's really difficult for us to like explain this to the older generations. Like they for the most part have this kind of adverse reaction to even acknowledging that any of what we're saying is true.
Well, I mean, there's always been generational divides. That's always a thing. Like, boomers, like their parents were like, oh, what are you doing listening to this crazy rock and roll when you should be listening to Sinatra? Yeah. Like that's always been a thing.
That concept is called juvenoia.
Yeah, well, like it's always going to be a thing. But I think, they're a generation that didn't have the same access to information that we did at a young age, and aren't as used to seeking out that information, especially when it comes to like political things, which isn't fun. Like, it's not fun to do these things. And I think, our generation kind of got forced into learning about it because it was just like a matter of survival. Like, you just like we kind of have to. Right. And like, it's not fun. Like, it is much more enjoyable for me to go and sing my hair metal songs or fill in for Nuclear Bubba Rap on bass and to just go out and party. But like the thing is, society is at like such a tipping point right now that like it is the socially responsible thing to be aware, be informed, try to be a productive member of the electorate, and not just productive as like, oh, I'm working hard, but like trying to shift things in a better direction so that the generation after us, like, there's still an America here. Like, because we are much more close to crumbling than I think a lot of people realize. And I think that, the COVID pandemic showed just how fragile our system is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, shoot, man, we've gone almost 2 hours, and that feels like a very good stopping point. It's a bleak stopping point.
That's like half a Joe Rogan episode.
Yeah, it's like half a Joe Rogan. I mean, look, the format for the show is basically just stealing the Joe Rogan format, which is just like, what if I just shoot the shit for like 2 hours? Can I get 100 million from Spotify at some point?
Yeah.
But
if we're gonna wrap up, then I should probably talk about how to. I should probably plug my stuff, right?
Yeah, I was about to tell you to plug your stuff, so please plug the stuff.
Yeah. So, as Greg said at the beginning of the show, I run a record label called Needlejuice Records, which is actually it's a team of 3 people. It's me and a guy named Austin and a guy named Brandon, and the record label is we do vinyl, CDs, cassettes. We do very, very pretty, colorful records. Oh yeah, you mentioned showing some off.
Oh yeah, show some stuff off. Let me show some product on the camera.
So yeah, I run this record label called Needlejuice Records, and you can go to needlejuicerecords.com to get any of this stuff. So we started out with this King Gizzard pressing. This is, of course, King Gizzard's public domain album, Polygon Wannaland, and we don't have any of the vinyl of this available currently, although there are plans to repress it, and hopefully just have polys in stock forever. But the real exciting stuff is
the stuff you can make money off of currently.
Yeah. So this is a Spirit Phone by Lemon Demon. Probably the most popular thing that we've pressed. This is an artist by the name of Neil Ciceriga, and he's been doing internet stuff for a very long time now. He's kind of a jack of all trades on the internet, and this is his music project, and this is a Spirit Phone record. We make colorful records, very colorful.
I mean, it's very cool stuff. Like, you're not just doing like, oh, here's just black vinyl.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't do this stream without talking about this album. This album's kind of the reason Needlejuice even exists. This is Logan Whitehurst's Goodbye My 4-track. Logan Whitehurst is a dude who unfortunately passed away at the age of 29 of cancer, but we were able to press this album, which is a really, really good album. It's funny. It's it's kind of like They Might Be Giants. It's just some really, really good, diverse songwriting with a lot of really fun song concepts. Very just and a great sense of humor. Dr. Domino called it the Sgt. Pepper's of comedy music. You get this lovely green vinyl.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see. We got see, this is actually a local Nashville band, Flummox.
Yep, featuring former Lipstick Generation guitarist Jace McCutcheon.
Yes, Jace McCutcheon is all over this record playing guitar. He's right there in the gatefold.
Yep.
You can see him right there. He also he did the vinyl master for this. You get a satanic butt duck on the back there. You get some some nice purple splattered vinyl, which is what the band requested. You know, we do some vaporwave stuff. So this is a vaporwave album by a guy named Cat System Corp. And he's from the Netherlands, and this is an album that's kind of based on the Weather Channel, and it's just kind of whimsical and fun, kind of poking fun at the Weather Channel. You got the Weather Channel colors and everything.
That's fun.
Yeah. And this is a great band from Denver, Colorado called Eldrin. They are a psychedelic rock band. You know, if you're into like, you know, 70s psychedelic rock, or even psychedelic rock from the current era, like Tame Impala, or, you know, things like that. Eldrin are a great psychedelic rock band. They do the genre exceptionally well. We got this explosive, you know, dark matter splatter record that we made out of it. And, you know, aside from that, we make cassettes. This is an album by an act called The Scary Jokes. You know, and this is kind of part of where you get the aesthetic is, you know, this album is about a romance between these two characters that are represented by the colors pink and green on the album cover there, and so we have this dual colored cassette where it's pink and green on either side. So just one little way that we match the artwork, and of course we do fun little products every now and then. This is a nuclear bubble wrap 8-track.
Ah, geez, you're doing 8 tracks.
I thought
you wanted to make the world a better place, Jace. What the fuck?
Yeah, see, so you can get Psychodelicacy on an 8-track.
So do you have a Nuclear Bubble Wrap on vinyl also?
That is coming. The new album will be on vinyl.
Okay, so but Nuclear Bubble Wrap is available on CD and 8-track and cassette?
Cassette, yeah, it's on cassette. So my band Nuclear Bubble Wrap is a psychedelic rock band, kind of a hodgepodge of bands like Ween and the Flaming Lips. You know, kind of that kind of realm of music. You know, we have a whimsical sense of humor about us, and I think we make pretty fun music. You can find our music at nuclearbubblerap.com, as well as our Bandcamp page, as well as the stuff is also available on Needlejuice, so you can actually go to the record label website and hear all the Nuclear Bubble Wrap stuff too. And we have a new album coming out called Problematic, which is scheduled to come out in August.
All right, so yeah, Nuclear Bubble Wrap, Needlejuice Records. Jace McLain, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. This was fun.
It was fun. We'll definitely do this again, and I'll see how many subs I lose from all the political talk.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you gain some Needlejuice people, though. So
right. So it'll all even out. And look, you know, one of the things you're gonna get on this channel, honesty all the time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.